Hey guys, it's Mikkel from Berg Bros Fitness and Nutrition. Today we're going to be talking about macros, so the video is going to be just a little bit long. I'm also going to post some timestamps here so you can see exactly where at in the video you want to go. If you know about macros already and you kind of want to see how to calculate them, you can go ahead to that part. And we'll have links to all the products that I discussed in this video and all the different equations that I use listed in the notes below. You can also view the notes to see where the timestamps are as well. Alright, so what exactly is flexible dieting or macro counting? People don't often stick to diets because they're often made to do the meal plan. It's got like chicken breast or fish and some side like vegetables or potatoes, and they have to eat that every single meal. And nobody sticks to that because nobody can reliably do that for the rest of their lives. So the good thing with macro counting or flexible dieting is that it's something that's sustainable over a long period of time. So you can do it very strict now and kind of ease up as you go and continue that on throughout your fitness journey. So we're going to kind of talk about macros and talk about how we can figure out what our own are, what we'll need maybe, and then some tips and tricks on how to do it successfully. So first, what are macros? Essentially, it's like counting calories, except for instead of the calories, you're counting the individual macronutrients. So these are protein, fats, and carbs. So when people count calories, they count overall all the foods that they eat. This could be a ton of proteins, a ton of carbs, a ton of fats. So you're not necessarily eating the best things for you. Your calories should really come from specific sources, and those things are proteins, fats, and carbs. So those things are individualized to help you achieve your specific goals and are customized to each person and each goal that they have. So your carbs are 4 calories per 1 gram of carb. And carbs are things like fruits, breads, rice, oatmeal, different things like that. Your proteins are also 4 calories per single gram, and those are things like chicken breast, eggs, tofu if you're a vegetarian, just all kinds of different meats. Your fats are actually 9 calories per gram, so those are the biggest one where you can eat the least amount and you end up with a whole lot of calories. So those are such things like peanut butters, oils, butter in general, and then things like olives, avocado, nuts. Alcohol is also a macro, but it's a little more advanced, and I recommend just kind of staying away from alcohol until you've gotten to where you want to be, because those are kind of hard to count. So what do you need to start macro counting? So the biggest things that you'll need is a food scale. A lot of people think that they can look at food and tell exactly what the serving size is, but in reality, it's really not possible. So you need a food scale so you know the exact amount of grams that each piece of your food is, because one banana may say it's 50 carbs, but then you weigh it and it's 98 grams, and that ends up being like 150 carbs. So it's very important to have a food scale, especially in the beginning. You also want to have a tracking app. So Phorm has a great tracking app if you have the premium, but if you don't, you can get MyFitnessPal and track on it as well. So they're both great options. You also want a weight scale. So if you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, you want to be able to track each week what your weight is doing based on the macros that you're doing. All right, so to begin, what you need to do is to track everything you're eating for a whole week. So don't try and eat better, just eat exactly what you normally eat. This is really important because then you can see the big holes in your diet. So are you overeating? Are you undereating? Are you eating way too much carb? Are you eating way too little protein? Are your hormones really out of whack? That could be that you have no fats in your diet. Is your energy really low? Could probably be because you're not eating enough carbs. Are you not losing weight? And it's probably because your protein is too low and you can't stay full. So these are all different things you need to look at, and that's why it's important to track your macros for a whole week without changing anything at all. Then you know exactly how many calories you're eating. So maybe you're only eating 1,200 calories a day, and then you count your macros and you start eating 1,800 calories a day. You may still be in a calorie deficit, but because you've been eating 1,200 calories a day, you'll kind of gain weight in the beginning and then start losing weight. That's why it's really important to have a baseline to start with, and then you can kind of change things as you go. So we'll get into some importance on each macro now. So carbs is the first macro that we should talk about. It's the primary fuel source for your body. So you have 3 different macros, and your body can use any of them for energy, but if you have all 3 available, your body's automatically going to go to the carb. And so that's why it's so important that you eat enough carbs in your day. So if you feel like you're not very energized at all and you're like, well, I ate a banana this morning. Yes, that's a carb, but it's a very quick digesting carb. So it'll give you a quick burst of energy, but it's not going to sustain you throughout the day. So in the mornings, you need a long digesting carbs, something like oatmeal, cereal, those kind of things. They'll stay in your belly and they take a long time to digest, so you stay and you have a lot of energy. The second macro we have to talk about is your fats. So fats get a really bad rap. Everybody thinks you shouldn't eat a high-fat diet, you should stay away from fats, but it's really not true. Fats are super important for you because they're what help you digest and absorb your fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin D, E, and K. Those are very important because those vitamins can't be dissolved, can't be absorbed by your body unless you have enough fats in your diet. So another reason why fats are important is for hormone production. So you may be feeling like your hormones are kind of out of whack, and it's probably because you don't have enough fats in your diet. This is the reason why a lot of bodybuilders will eat a low-fat diet, and then the females will start losing their periods, or male testosterone will drop, and it's because they're not eating enough fats to help produce those hormones that are needed. Fats are also really important for your hair and skin, to insulate your body, to protect your organs. It also helps brain development, blood clotting, and to decrease inflammation. So the fat that's specific for that is your omega-3s and your omega-6s, and that's something that your body doesn't make on its own. And those typically come from things like salmon, different fishes, and if you're not a person who likes fish, you can always take a fish oil supplement. It's very important to decrease the inflammation in your body and to help your brain development and help continue to have energy throughout the day. So if you aren't getting enough fish or aren't getting enough fat in your diet, make sure that you get some omega-3 fatty acids, and Phorm has a great one called Phomega, but otherwise you can get them at Walmart or Dollar General or just kind of anywhere that they have supplements and vitamins. The third macro we're going to talk about is protein. This is the most important macro to be extremely accurate with. The reason why this is because if you're in a calorie deficit or if you're trying to build muscle, you want to continue to eat protein throughout the day about every 2 to 3 hours. So every time you stop eating protein or when you sleep throughout the night, your body goes into something called a catabolic state. When your body is catabolic, it starts burning your muscle as energy and it's storing fat. So this is when you get fat. What you want to do is make sure your body is in an anabolic state. The way that you do this is by eating protein about every 2 to 3 hours, and also when you wake up in the morning to get a really good protein source in. This way your body is anabolic. And when your body is anabolic, it's burning fat as energy and it's helping you build muscle. So if you can't fit a protein source in from Whole Foods, protein shakes or protein bars are a really great option to help you stay in that anabolic state. I recommend Phorm's Level 1. It's a really great protein source, but if you can't get that one or you don't want to, there's plenty of protein sources out there in your grocery stores. Just when you look, you want to make sure that whey protein is the very first ingredient in your protein source. If you have any questions about that, feel free to comment or message me, and I'll let you know if the protein that you're looking at is a good source. The most important time to have protein is post-workout. You should take a protein that is assimilated quickly in your body, and you should also have a high glycemic carb along with it. High glycemic carb is something like a banana or gummy bears or many different sources that are just high sugar things. And the reason why you want to do this is because these create a very fast insulin response in your body. So when you're working out, what happens is that your body dips into its glycogen stores for energy. So after your workout is done, that glycogen store needs to be refueled. So if you're just a person that gets a protein shake and drinks it, all you're doing is using that protein shake to refill your glycogen stores, and none of that protein is used to build muscle in your body. So you're basically just wasting money and wasting a protein. So what you need to do is have a high glycemic carb along with it. So like I said earlier, something like a banana or gummy bears or something like that to fill that glycogen store so that your protein that you're drinking can be used to help you build that muscle. So one of the best ones that I say that you should use, obviously, is Formula 1 from Phorm. And this is hydrolyzed whey protein, so they use microfiltration for this. And if you look at the ingredients, the first thing is whey protein isolate, which is very important. And your ignition, which is a high glycemic carb. So what's gonna happen is that this is gonna fill those glycogen stores for you, and then your Formula 1 can be used to help you build muscle and recover from your workout. These two products together, or a protein source and that high glycemic carb, will help insulin spike, and it'll help protein be shuttled into your muscles quicker. So this is gonna help you recover faster, and it's also gonna help you build quicker. So if you don't want to do this, the best option is to eat around 10 to 15 grams of a carb, and like I said, something that's really quick digesting. So don't go for oats, go for something that's very high sugar content, or something like fruit, a banana, a handful of strawberries, something like that. And then the best source is going to be a simple carb like I talked about, ignition. This will spike your insulin response about 4 times faster than something like a banana. Also, you need to get a good protein source like a protein shake. So even if you want to grab a protein shake from the store and eat a banana at the same time. They're very important together, and make sure you're doing that after every single workout, that you're really out there sweating. So if you just go for a quick run, it's not a big deal. But if you're gonna be doing resistance training like the gym, a CrossFit workout, something like that, make sure you get that protein and carb source in. Another big thing is drinking enough water. So water is gonna make or break your fat loss. It helps suppress your appetite. So anytime you're like extra hungry, just try and drink some water and that'll help your appetite go down. It also increases your metabolism. It helps you avoid empty carbs by drinking things like soda or tea. It flushes your body out. It supports your muscles, your joints, and connective tissue function. So make sure you're drinking about 100 ounces of water a day. More than that is awesome, but if you are just kind of at a baseline trying to get yourself to drink enough water, about 100 ounces is what you're gonna shoot for. Okay, so here's some general tips for macro counting. So first of all, your macros should not be changed as long as you're still making progress. So let's say you've calculated your macros and you've been tracking them for about 2 weeks and you're still losing about 2 pounds a week. There's no reason to change your macros up a bunch of times. As long as you're still losing and you haven't hit a plateau, just stay where you're at. Once you hit that plateau, you can kind of adjust your macros a little bit, maybe by about 200 calories. I usually say take it from carbs. But until that point, just keep staying on the exact same macros because it helps you stay on track and it helps you plan better. Second, a food scale is key. I talked about it earlier, but you really can't eyeball food. And it's the difference between 100 calories that you counted or 300 calories that you didn't count. So when you're looking for a food scale, it doesn't have to be anything super fancy. I think I paid probably like $15 for this on Amazon, and we'll include a link below. But all you really need is a scale that has an option to tare. So when you put a bowl on it, you can put it down and you zero it out and it'll say 0, so that when you put your food in, you don't have to subtract the weight of the bowl. And then you want something that has grams and ounces and mils if you can, to the least, because that way when you're adding your milk to your protein shakes or whatever you're doing, you can see exactly how many mils are in it. And then grams is really important as well because that's gonna be your main source. So you'll have grams on here, different things. Like I said, when you zero, you can zero it out. You can also do this by if you wanna eat like a bag of chips. So if you don't really wanna pour it into a bowl, you can weigh your bag of chips, eat some of your food out of it, and then weigh it again, and you'll know exactly how much you ate without having to pour a bowl of it. So it's a really great thing. You don't have to get anything super fancy. And like I said, we'll give you kind of a couple different options. All right, so the next thing is don't forget to track your condiments. This is something that people often forget. Anything from ketchup to oils that you put when you cook your food to butter, those are all things that are gonna add calories. I think the butter that I use is about 6 grams per, and like I said earlier, there's 9 calories per gram of fat. So if I didn't count that, that's about 72 calories that I'm missing out of my tracking for the day. So it's really important that you track all those different condiments that you use. Also, you want to plan ahead. So a lot of people will track as they go, and then they get to the end of the day and realize they have 200 carbs left to eat for the day. And that's really not good for your body. So the best thing to do is at the beginning of the day or even at the beginning of the week, track out what you're going to eat for that day. Now, this is called flexible dieting. So you have the option to, when it gets later in the day and you decide, hey, there's a pizza someone brought to work and I want to eat a slice of that. Put that into your macros on your tracking app, and then you can subtract a couple things to make those equal out. And you're still planning ahead for your day, but you're also being flexible and being able to eat kind of whatever you want as long as it fits within those macros. The best way to be the most successful, though, is to plan ahead and not try to track throughout your day, because I promise you're not going to be spot on at the end of the day. The next big tip is, as I said earlier, eat protein at every single meal. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you want to try and spread out about 20 grams of protein per every meal for your day, depending on what your macros are. You also want to weigh your food after it's cooked. So this gives you a little bit more bang for your buck. If you weigh a chicken breast before you cook it, it's going to weigh a lot more than a chicken breast after you cooked it. So that's a big thing. If you tend to eat chicken that has bones in it, you need to weigh it with the bones, eat it, and then weigh it again without the bones, because you don't want to count the weight of the bone and you not being actually being able to eat it. It's really important because you're going to be missing a lot of food in your day if you're not eating, if you're not counting the food accurately. Okay, so the next thing I recommend is choosing a few staple meals. That way, whenever you're kind of hungry, you can do things that you know exactly what the macros are in them, and they're never gonna kind of be outside of your plan. Another tip that I have is that diet drinks can actually be really helpful in helping you stay full. So a lot of people don't like to use diet drinks, but the Zero, like Coke Zero, Pepsi Max, those have no aspartame in them and they're naturally sweetened. They have some artificial sweeteners that aren't terrible for you, and those things will make you bloat a little bit, but that's kind of the point of them. So if you're super hungry and you feel like you're not able to stay on top of your macros, you can drink a diet soda and it'll kind of fill your belly with that carbonation and make you trick your body into thinking that you're full. Another thing I want to say is consider buying protein powder or shakes just to keep in your car, just to have on the side, so that way if you find that you haven't had protein in about 2 or 3 hours and you want to keep your body in an anabolic state, you have something that you can actually use. Another thing is that others don't have to understand your diet. So if everybody's like, how are you eating so much? Or why do you carry that scale around? That's really weird. It doesn't matter what they think, because you're doing something for you, you're sticking to the process, and in the end, they're going to be pretty jealous of your results. So the final thing I want to say, the big takeaway about macro counting and a tip I have, is that food does not have morality. Food isn't good. It's not bad. You didn't make a good choice today by eating just those vegetables. You didn't make a bad choice because you had a cheeseburger. There's only calorie-dense food like a cheeseburger and nutrient-dense food like vegetables. Those are your two different things. So it's not good and bad. You didn't do terrible if you went and ate a slice of that pizza. You didn't do awesome just because all day long you stuck exactly to your macros and ate vegetables. And each meal is its own meal and each day is its own. So if you messed up today, you have tomorrow. It's not going to ruin your results just because you ate one thing that wasn't necessarily on your plan. The best thing about macro counting is that you don't have to cheat on your diet, because anything can fit. So you want to have a piece of cheesecake, just make it fit in your macros. You're not cheating. You're just having a flexible diet and you're just eating something that's fitting within your macros. So that's kind of the best thing about it. So now we're going to kind of discuss some basic calculations that you can get, kind of basic macros for you that aren't super individualized, but kind of are based on what your activity level is and what your goals are. So this is really why you should hire a nutrition coach, because they can give you exact numbers for you and change it based on exactly what you want. But I wanted to give you guys the option to calculate these for yourself and kind of know a little bit of a basic on where you should be. So the first thing you want to do is determine your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate. There's a lot of different equations for this, a lot of different calculations. I use the Harris-Benedict equation. It has a different one for males and females. So for women, your formula is 655 plus 4.35 times your weight in pounds, plus 4.7 times your height in inches, minus 4.7 times your age. For men, the formula is 66 plus 6.2 times weight in pounds, plus 12.7 times height in inches, minus 6.76 times age. So that will give you the amount of calories you burn in the day if you just laid down and did absolutely nothing. That's what your basal metabolic rate is. So the next thing you need to do is estimate your total daily energy expenditure. And so that's basically multiplying your BMR times your activity level. So you're going to determine what your activity level is for the day. So if you're a person that does little to no exercise, a desk job, you don't get out, you don't go to the gym, you don't go on walks, you're going to multiply that number times 1.2. If you're a person that does light exercise, so you work out 1 to 3 days a week, or you're a person that kind of walks around your job, let's say you are an EBS worker at a hospital, you're a teacher, those are light exercises. If that's you, you're going to multiply your BMR times 1.375. Moderate exercise is a person who works out about 3 to 5 days a week. So unless you work out a whole lot or you have a heavy job, most people will fall within the moderate exercise range. And if that's you, you multiply your BMR times 1.55. If you work out 6 to 7 days a week or do heavy exercise, you multiply your number times 1.725. And then if you're someone that's extremely active, you do hard labor outside, you work out 2 times a day, then you can multiply your BMR times 1.9. Okay, so next you need to determine what your fitness goal is. So if you're someone that wants to build muscle and gain weight, you want to have a higher carb diet. So take whatever the number is that you calculated and then add about 250 calories to that. If you want to maintain, you're going to take exactly that number with your total daily energy expenditure, and that's your number. If you want to be someone that loses fat, you're going to have a lower carb. So what you're going to do is take your total number and decrease it by 15%. Thank you guys so much for watching. I was excited to teach you guys a little about macro counting. You had so many questions, and I hope I answered most of them. If you have any extra ones, feel free to comment or ask me, message me, whatever you need to do. So our next video is going to follow this. It's going to be about macro counting, but it's going to be based on meal prepping and how to use macro counting in your meal prepping. I know a lot of this seemed a little bit confusing, but if you watch it a couple times and look into it a little bit more, I promise you'll get it. You don't always have to stick super strict to the macro counting. You'll grow and you'll learn, and you'll be able to do this for a lot longer amount of time and keep it sustainable. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you learned a whole lot. See you next time.